إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
بسم الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره الكافرون ولو كره المشركون وأوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله وقد أمرنا بالحق وقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار قال الله تعالى واسألهم عن القرية التي كانت حاضرة البحر إذ يعدون في السبت إذ تأتيهم حيتانهم يوم سبتهم شرعا ويوم لا يسبتون لا تأتيهم كذلك نبلوهم بما كانوا يفسقون وإذ قالت أمة منهم لم تعظون قوما الله مهلكهم أو معذبهم عذابا شديدا قالوا معذرة إلى ربكم ولعلهم يتقون فلما نسوا ما ذكروا به أنجينا الذين ينهون عن السوء وأخذنا الذين ظلموا بعذاب بئيس بما كانوا يفسقون وقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما رواه مسلم من حديث أبي سعيد الخدري رضي الله تعالى عنه قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع فبلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and bearing witness that none has the right to be worshipped or unconditionally praised except Him. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his companions, and those that follow him to the end of time. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Planet Jupiter is so big that all of the planets in the solar system can fit inside of it. Rather, planet Jupiter is so big that 1,300 Earth can fit inside of it. Planet Jupiter is so big that if you wanted to orbit around it just one time in a plane, it would take you 5 months. Asteroids and comets have hit this planet before, leaving scars. Some of those scars as big as our very own planet, planet Earth. That's why Jupiter is rightfully called the cosmic vacuum cleaner. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow Jupiter to become a star. Rather, He wrote that Jupiter will protect us from destroying foreign objects. When planets go outside of their orbit, they call them roam planets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He only fine-tuned this universe down to the trillionth decimal and beyond, so much so that any small change to the constants of the nature would have resulted in a universe incapable of supporting life. He made the pH of water vary for you all, and going without it can lead to your death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything on planet Earth for you. He made planet Earth habitable for you. You worship Him. You never give up on trying to become the best version of yourself for His pleasure. You love what He loves. You hate what He hates. And you guide people to the way of Allah and His Messenger in your action and your speech. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also did say, لَخَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ خَلْقِ النَّاسِ وَلَكِنْ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. The creation of the heavens and the earth is certainly greater than the creation of humankind. But most people don't know that. The sophistication of the black holes, the sophistication of the supernovas is more sophisticated than the metabolization of the nutrients by the liver. The sophistication of the 2 trillion galaxies and more is more sophisticated than the harmony between the lungs and the heart in providing oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. Brothers and sisters, the stability of the universe and the earth being part of it is a byproduct of the obedience of the cosmos to the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without choice. Corruption occurs on land when a human being decides to govern himself without divine guidance. Corruption occurs on planet Earth when human beings decide to govern themselves without divine guidance. Corruption occurs when a human being has this huge desire to emancipate himself, to discharge himself from the rule of God, and to chain himself to his desires. Brothers and sisters, the placement of Jupiter in our solar system is very precise. And the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed on this land for our dealings and our interactions is as precise. And when we don't submit to the regulations and restrictions of God, society is doomed. A group of people in the past decided to allow desires to govern them, and that was the people of Lut. While the people of Lut believed in God, they disregarded His laws with regards to homosexuality. They would accept all other laws, but denied this one, which led to their destruction. Sinning and falling to your desires is one thing. And when you do fall, you get back up, and you never give up on God's mercy nor yourself. However, justifying the sin and saying that it is halal is a manifestation of kufr. The sin of the people of Lut was that they justified their sin and they were persistent on it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed anyone who engaged in this horrendous action and anyone who supported it, even if it were the wife of a prophet. She supported the people of Lut, by engaging in treachery. And she took the secrets of her home, of the people of Lut, when the angels came in the form of handsome men visiting Lut alayhi salam. She went and she took this news to the people of Lut. She supported them by aiding them and enabling their practices rather than standing against them. As a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them and his wife with targeted pebbles that served as bullets from the sky. When Lut called his people to abstain and leave this action, he was threatened by being exiled. The stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preserved for us in the Quran to the end of time are for us to take lessons and implement in our lives. وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ وَجَاءَكَ فِي هَذِهِ الْحَقُّ وَمَوْعِظَةٌ وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we tell you the stories of the previous nations to reassure your heart. We're supposed to read the Quran, and it reminds us that what you are on is the truth, and you are not a madman. You believe that interest and usury is haram. You believe that homosexuality is haram. You believe alcohol is haram. You have these beliefs. You are not abnormal. And this has come to you, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as a reminder and a truth and a warning to the disbelievers. Brothers and sisters, the people that committed homosexuality in the time of Prophet Lut alayhi salam are not similar to the people of our time. There are extreme differences between the people of that time and the people of our time. First and foremost, the people of that time, they actually believed in God. They allowed for divine guidance. They told their prophet, we will accept all of the laws except this one law. The people in our time don't even believe in God. The latest statistic says 1 in 3 Americans don't believe in God, while at least the people of Lut believed in God and they just denied a particular law. Secondly, the people of Lut exercised their desires between men and men. And the people of our time are exercising their desires between men and men, women, and much more. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help the people struggling with the sin of homosexuality. However, my focus today is going to address making sure that we as a community don't fall into the sin of the wife of Lut. We have to be very, very careful in not aiding or enabling these sins. Furthermore, we need to actively advocate against it. Brothers and sisters, you should ask yourself, before Allah asks you on the Day of Judgment, why am I here in America? Why am I here in Canada? Why am I here in Australia? Why am I here in a land that doesn't abide by God and His Messenger? Am I just here to live the American dream, or to guide this land and its people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The companions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they came and they asked him for permission to sit on the roadways. You want to go to Big Dash? You want to go to Arwa Cafe? You want to go to any restaurant? We want to go there. We want to sit down. We want to chat. He says, okay, if you have to do so, do 5 things. Number 1, lower your gaze. When you're on the roadway, you must lower your gaze. And don't come tell me now that it's easy for me. If one of the giants, Imam al-Shafi'i, he complained to his teacher that he saw the ankle of a woman, and his memorization capacities decreased. Don't come now and tell me in 2023, there's nothing that I need to lower my gaze. You need to lower your gaze in the masjid and outside the masjid. Unfortunately. The first thing you do on the roadway, you go in to visit people in Pakistan, in Egypt, in Somalia, wherever you go, you lower your gaze. And brothers and sisters, when the sister in front of you, Muslim or non-Muslim, sees you lowering your gaze and that you fear Allah, she does everything in her capacity to get out of your way. You have the fear of Allah in your heart. Allah tells her, this guy doesn't want to look, hurry up, get away. That's number one. Number two, you want to sit on the pathways? The second thing you must do, kafful adha. You cannot harm anyone when you're on the pathways. What is one way that people misunderstand, misapply this hadith? Brothers and sisters, if you are one of those brothers or sisters who love to smoke cigarettes, may Allah cure you all from this. Don't smoke it on the pathways so people can be harmed by secondhand smoking. If you have to, smoke it in privacy. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove this sin from you. Number three, he told them, if you want to sit on the pathways, someone says Assalamu alaikum, you respond to him. But what is the shahid from this hadith? Number four, he says, when you sit on this pathway, make sure you refrain. You return the greetings, and what do? You advocate for good and you forbid for evil. You advocate good and you forbid evil. Brothers and sisters, if the advice of the Prophet ﷺ for the people sitting on the path was to speak up against injustice and immorality, then what do you think is the role of the one who is a resident of that land? The people that, the problem with living here and not advocating against laws in support of the LGBT community is that their agenda is taking over so much. If we were to abide by everything that is being asked, such as including accommodations for them in school and workplace, then we are being forced against our moral code. It is at a point now where we should actually be working to turn the tides in the opposite direction. It is affecting parents from giving their children the rights of receiving an upbringing on Islamic values. If we don't stand up against this immorality, then God destroys anyone who supports it and who is silent. Brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions us a story in Surah Al-A'raf. In short, Allah told the people of Israel, don't fish on Saturday. They thought they were intelligent. They put their nets out on Friday so they can get their fish on Sunday. They thought that they can pull a fast one on Allah. What took place? What did the Quran say? There was three groups. One group engaged in the sin. And then the remaining two groups did the following. One group of the people said what? They said, let's warn these people. So they started to warn these people. And they warned these people, and they warned these people, and they warned these people, and then they lost hope. But the other group of believers did what? They kept reminding them. They kept telling them. Sunny day, rainy day, they kept telling them. They said, you know what? Like, we're going to keep telling them what they're doing is wrong. So the second group told them, come on, man, just give up on these people. Nothing is going to happen with them. They're not going to change. So what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do? He destroyed the people that were engaging in the sin. However, he protected the other two groups. Why? Why did he protect the other two groups? Even though the first group forbid evil and then they stopped, at least they forbid evil. Because forbidding this evil is what we call a communal obligation. At least there are some people telling the people that what you are doing is wrong, then that suffices. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected both of those groups under the condition that they did what? They forbid evil. Every generation, brothers and sisters, has its test to pass. Our parents' generation struggled even to have a Muslim presence in this land by building masajid, traveling long distances for Muslim communities, looking for halal food. Now our generation is being tested. It's time for us to do our part and not just sit back and enjoy the luxuries afforded to us from the previous generations. We can enjoy the foundation they laid, but we have to do our part. If we don't do our part in upholding morality in this country, brothers and sisters, it will have a negative impact on the identity of Muslims in this country for years to come. When it comes to having allies in policy or otherwise, it cannot compromise our Islamic morals. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah wa salatu wassalam ala man la nabiyya ba'da. Hadith in the beginning of the khutbah, and that is my action item for you all today. If you don't remember anything that I said from the first khutbah, pay attention to what I'm going to say in the second khutbah. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says that the Muslims will respond to evil in one of three types. You will be someone that can change this evil with your hand, you can change this evil with your tongue, or you can hate this evil in your heart. If you can work to change the laws of this land to fall in line with Islam, then do so. Because policies in this land have been overturned in the past through persistent advocacy, as we see in Roe versus Wade and civil rights laws and many more. The people that stood up to these wrongs in the past were not seen as rebels in society, rather people that used the legal process that this society allows. The Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala trumps the Constitution, and so much so that we have the opportunity to change the laws and the policies for the better of mankind, then that is our job. We are not here to live passively under its mercy. There were states in the past that said no to this action and punished the people for it, and that's what we need to call the people to do so. We should advocate for people to be fined or imprisoned if they go public with forcing immorality on others. It's our obligation as the best ummah sent forth to make this society have a better moral fabric. When Rosa Parks stood up for what she stood up for, that was not more valuable than Islam. We should have more energy and motivation to change policies to be in line with the Sharia than any other advocacy group that has passed laws in this country. If you are in that position, if you know someone that's in that position, you support them. If there's a law coming out, if there's a policy coming out, if there's a rally coming out, you support that and you change it so this society to become better. People that came before it, they did it for other laws. Number two, maybe you are not in that category. Maybe you don't have the ability to support politicians to change that policy in this land. What do? Number two, you speak up against this immorality with your tongue. Brothers and sisters, there are Americans living around us that have never picked up the Quran, that have never read a hadith about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and they are going out there with their tongue saying that this immorality needs to stop. If these people identify as homosexuals, then we define ourselves how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined us. We are the ones that have the correct moral understanding. And we are the ones that need to project this into society. I must remind you of this, brothers and sisters, and for the younger brothers that didn't live around. If someone had AIDS or corona or the plague and the government limited them to their home, it was considered as a safety precaution for society rather than preventing their freedom. Moral protection is as important as physical protection. So when we advocate against immorality, we should have the same confidence as not buy into the philosophy that we are just limiting people to their freedom. Last but not least, you live in this land, you go to Walmart, you go to Kroger, you go to all of these stores, and you have become immune. You see alcohol, and you don't even say astaghfirullah. You see people walking immorally, and you don't even say astaghfirullah. Brothers and sisters, we have become so immune that when haram is around us, it doesn't have effect on us. We see people smoking and it doesn't do anything to us. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, none of you truly believe until his desires are in line with the Sharia of Allah. Brothers and sisters, if you haven't been worshiping Allah and your iman is not high enough to do something with your hand, if you haven't been worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and now your iman is strong so you can say something with your tongue, what happened to your heart? They're not going to exile you like they said to Lut alayhi salam just because you hate something in your heart. What has the American dream done to us? That we don't even hate what Allah hates in our heart. They never came and told us that if you hate this in your heart, we'll kick you out of America. That's the least. Allah is saying, what has happened to your heart? What are you doing? Why can't your heart hate this action? You know why your heart doesn't hate this action? Because you're probably not praying 5 times a day. You're probably disrespecting your parents. You're probably disrespecting your spouse. You're probably cheating people. You're probably selling haram. For you to hate an action that Allah hates, it comes from Him only. And the Prophet said, وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. Brothers and sisters, to change this immorality in society, it needs to be done systemically. From the bottom to the top and from the top to the bottom. Brothers and sisters, an individual in the past who had this sin or was practicing on this sin, they used to go to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It was classified as a mental disorder less than 60 years ago. What did these people do? They went and they changed the definition of this disorder. And they had doctors saying that it was normal. So this is not nothing we're going to change overnight. It's going to require a systemic change. Until the systemic change comes, you must hate this action in your heart. Brothers and sisters, I conclude. I mentioned in the beginning of the khutbah that the universe is so sophisticated. And it's so sophisticated that we need the laws of God to govern this universe and to govern us. Where did these people go wrong, and where will people go wrong in the future? By choosing to govern themselves other than the laws of God. Brothers and sisters, when you wake up, how you wake up, how you use the bathroom, how you have intercourse, how you have money, where you look, how often you look, how do you dress, how do you make your money, all of these things need divine guidance. Once you think you don't need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you are heading to destruction. When you are a young man, you need Allah. When you are a grown man, you need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In conclusion, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us all the ability to hate this action in our heart. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make sure that we don't become desensitized to hating what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us become of individuals who speak up against injustice no matter the ramifications. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the same way Prophet Lut mentioned in his Quran, Rabbi najjini wa ahli mimma ya'malun. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us, our families, and our progeny to the end of time from homosexuality. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the brothers that are suffering with this sin and allow them to come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And finally, I conclude by saying, this does not mean that we hate these people and we are violent to these people. This just means that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we must say it. If you use this tongue on planet Earth to advocate for Allah, on the Day of Judgment, it will come and it will speak for you on the Day of Judgment. I conclude by saying the following. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, and he told us, and he will continue to tell us, because thousands of years from now, the ahadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu will still be preserved. Brothers and sisters, you may say something on your tongue, and you don't understand the magnitude of it, and it will lead you to high places in Jannah. There's old women in the community, brothers and sisters, that their children have abandoned them. And you go to her and you tell her, how are you doing today? How's everything? Wallahi, you put happiness in her heart. Her son may have abandoned her, but you know what? You Muslim man, you Muslim woman, you asked her, how are you doing today? And that put happiness in her heart. When you speak and you tell the people that my religion proudly says that the action is wrong and I can't engage in it, that makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. And metaphorically speaking, if you put a smile on Allah's face, the smile that you are looking for on a Day of Judgment, He will give it to you. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم حاسبنا حسابا يسيرا اللهم هون علينا سكرات الموت اللهم ثبتنا في القبر عند سؤال الملكين اللهم لا تخزنا يوم القيامة اللهم يسر الهدى إلى أولادنا اللهم يسر الهدى إلى أولادنا اللهم يسر الهدى إلى أولادنا بلادنا. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون، ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح، قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله.
Make the line straight, close the gap, silence your cell phones. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. طاسين تلك آيات القرآن وكتاب مبين هدى وبشرى للمؤمنين هدى وبشرى للمؤمنين الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم بالآخرة هم يوقنون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة زينا لهم أعمالهم فهم يعمهون. إن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة زينا لهم أعمالهم فهم يعمهون. أولئك الذين لهم سوء العذاب وهم في الآخرة هم الأخسرون. وإنك لتلقى القرآن من لدن حكيم عليم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. السلام عليكم.